Good afternoon, campers. Welcome back to another episode of Kerno Camps. I'm Daniel and I've got no Dave with me today. Dave is staying at home today because I'm trying out a new tent. I'm trying out the Lanshan 1 Plus. Although it's a plus size tent, when I tried it out in the garden earlier today, I found that it's definitely a one-man tent, not really a one-man and his dog, unless you're to put your dog out in the vestibule. And Dave is not a vestibule sleeping dog. So where I am today, and if you can see this, we've got a reservoir, and off in the background is a tor. But I'm not on Dartmoor, I'm on Bodmin Moor today. So I'll keep you guessing as to what tor that is. Leave a comment below. It's a very, very grimy day today. I don't think grimy is the right word, but it's very wet, very cold, very windy. So I am going to be setting up my tent in amongst the trees today. I've brought my tarp with me as well, camo tarp, to give me a little bit of a area outside the tent to sit and chill out and prepare my dinner later. But what a beautiful place this is. Let me flip it round. So yeah, absolutely stunning location. Now, technically, I'm going to be honest, technically, I'm not supposed to be camping here. This is Bodmin Moor, not Dartmoor. I know this. I know that there's a risk that I might be moved on. But there's a very good reason why I'm camping here. It's Halloween. And this is a bit of a spooky location for me. I'll tell you why when we get to camp. Welcome back. Right, I'm inside the tent. I've lost the light, hence why I'm inside the tent filming with my tent light as my light source. Since the time lapse, I've actually spun the tent around 180 degrees because I had full southerly wind blowing directly into the doors of the tent, and I didn't really fancy waking up in the night to go for a pee and have to fight the doors blowing into me, soaking wet while the rain's pouring down. So I've turned the tent around 180 degrees, and that meant I lost the light. So I'm inside, and I've got my new sleeping bag today. I don't know if that's coming up very clear on the camera, but it's the OEX Leviathan EV 900. I think it's 900. It's a nice down sleeping bag, and hopefully that'll keep me nice and toasty warm tonight. I'm going to cook myself some dinner in a minute, then I'll tell you why I've come back to this place to camp. So here I am laid in the Lanshan 1 Plus, and it's quite cosy. Cozy as in really tight and claustrophobic. I'm not sure that I like it very much. Since my time-lapse video, I've actually spun the tent round 180 degrees, and because of that I lost the light very, very quickly. And it also got very windy, so I didn't do much recording earlier. I've had my dinner, and now I want to tell you why it is that I'm here and where I am. Back on the 14th of April of this year, 2021, I came along to this spot for my very first wild camping experience. I came along with my friend Ian. I'd bought my OEX Fox 2 tent and a sleeping bag and a cheap sleeping mat, and that was it, apart from food. My mate had bought some TP tent and a sleeping bag, and we'd set up in this exact spot at Crowley Reservoir for our very first wild camp. It was a beautiful sunny day. It was actually too hot, and we were expecting a lovely evening, but unfortunately the wind kicked up fierce, and we retired to our tents very, very early. Ian got off to sleep pretty quickly, although he'll swear that he did not sleep at all that night, but his snoring sort of makes him out to be a bit of a liar. Anyway, while in my tent, and the wind was kicking up fierce, it was very noisy, I was struggling to sleep. And it was about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was lying here with my head facing the same direction as it is now, and I saw what looked like a light, but I wasn't quite sure. I could see it through the wall of the tent, and I thought it was the moon, but then I realised it was far too low. It was 1 o'clock in the morning, so the moon would have actually been high up in the sky, not dead in that direction. And over the course of the next half an hour, the light got brighter and brighter and brighter, until it felt like a floodlight right outside my tent, beaming straight into the wall of my tent. It lit up the entirety of the tent, and that light stayed there so bright for about 20 minutes, and then it disappeared off towards the east. I jumped out of the tent and had a little look around. I couldn't see the light at all. Now what was really spooky about it was that it was 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm in the woods, there's a lot of dead wood around, but I did not hear a single footstep while that light was out there. So I was convinced that, you know, for the first time in my life I was experiencing a ghostly presence. Anyway, next morning I told Ian about it. He didn't believe me. He said he was awake all night and didn't see any light whatsoever. A few days later, I heard about the story of Charlotte Dymond. Now, Charlotte Dymond was a young lady who worked as a servant girl in a house nearby. And she was in a relationship with another servant called Matthew Weeks. They were together for some time. But another servant turned up, and it turns out he took a bit of a shine to old Charlotte Dymond and promised to whisk her away to riches and all the rest of it, which I find quite suspicious considering he's a servant. Matthew became quite jealous. Anyway, on Sunday, April the 14th, 1844, Matthew and Charlotte walked off across the moor to church. And that was the last anyone saw of Charlotte Dymond alive. Now it turned out Charlotte Dymond's body was found a little while later in a stream at the foot of Roughtor, which isn't far from here. She was cut from ear to ear. Quite sad, really. Transpired, obviously, that Matthew Weeks had murdered her, slit her throat. When Matthew Weeks was caught by the police, he was tried at Bodmin Court. Bodmin at the time was the county town of Cornwall, and it was quite a high-profile case. He was sentenced to death by hanging at Bodmin jail. Over 1,000 people turned up to watch Matthew Weeks hang by his neck for the murder of Charlotte Dymond. Quite spooky. But did you notice the date in that story? It was 18th of April 1844. My first wild camp took place right here, not far from the spot where Charlotte Dymond was murdered on 18th of April 2021. Kinda spooky. And I think I've been saying the 18th of April all the way through that. It wasn't, it was the 14th of April. My mistake. So anyway, upon hearing that story, I was convinced that that light was the spirit of Charlotte Dymond. Whether or not it was, I don't know. But what better way to find out than to come back here on Halloween and spend a night in the same spot and see if we end up with the same experience. I know it's not the 14th of April, but it's All Hallows Eve, so therefore, if there's any time she's going to turn up, it's going to be tonight. I'll let you know in the morning. Well, it's quite early, it's only about 8 p.m, but it is blowing hellishly outside. This wind is terrible, and apparently the temperature right now is 9 degrees, but it feels a damn sight colder than that. Now, one thing that I found in the Lanshan 1 Plus is, despite the plus part of its name, it's still very, very small and cramped in here. There's no room to move around, there's no room to just sit and chill other than on your sleeping mat. So I'm curled up inside my sleeping bag to stay warm. And here comes the problem. I need to pee. Now, I'm all cosy, nice and warm up in my sleeping bag. I don't want to go out there and get cold, but I'm going to have to. It's horrible. I really don't want to go out there. It's too cold. It really is too cold. But hey ho. I'm probably going to get myself a nice early night tonight. It's surprising how warm I am in this OEX Leviathan EV900. What a complicated name. Yeah, really, really comfy and really warm. It's nice. And I've also got my Sundicks on. For those who don't know Sundick. Sundick is a company that make camping gear, and they have made a lovely pair of, I think they're duck down or goose down slippers, and they are so warm and comfortable. But I'm gonna have to get them off, get my boots on, go out, go for a wee, and then come back in and do it all again. But oh, it's terrible. I don't know if you can hear that wind. It's awful. But there you go, there's my update for now. Okay, quick update. Turns out that you can just loosen off the laces on your boots and keep your Sundicks on when you put your boots on to go out for a wee in the freezing cold gale force winds. In the woods, at night, pitch black, and try not to trip over anything. Ideal. Whoa! Can you hear that? Bloody hell. So I hope you can hear me. But Lanshan's not holding up too well. I've barely slept, and it's mostly because of the wind. The rain isn't so bad, but the walls of the Lanshan are blowing in and hitting me in the face. I'm going to get out in just a moment and check to make sure everything's still died out properly, pegged out properly. I think this corner here might have worked its way off the peg, or the peg's been torn out. This may not be a summit camp, it might be low down in the woodland, but still hellishly windy. I'm worried that I might have to bail, pack up and go home. We'll see. I'm going to check out that peg. So both front corners, they come off the pegs, and I think while I've just sat here and dried my glasses, I think this one by my head's come off again. Pretty windy and wet out there. I was only out there for a few moments. My back is absolutely soaking from bending over and pegging the tent back down. Never had to bail on a camp before. Not once I got pitched up the tent. I think I might be this time round though. I hope not. We'll try again. Oh, what fun. Campers, the sun has just ascended over the horizon. We've got blue sky and it is absolutely stunning. You wouldn't think for a single moment that we had the weather as bad as we did last night, and it was atrocious. A couple of my pegs came out the ground, a couple of the tie-out points on the tent were just flapping around. The whole tent felt like it was collapsing on me around midnight. That was terrible. And it was at that point that I almost gave up completely on the camp. I felt like the weather was only going to get worse and that I should really just pack up and go. But the Lanshan 1 Plus stood up for the rest of the night, and I actually got a pretty good night's kip. One thing that I must remember to do with my sleep mat next time though is to slightly underinflate it. It felt at a couple of points in the night like I was lying on a hard board floor. It was pretty bad. But other than that, I had a pretty good night. So yeah, we had a storm and I had a not entirely 100% comfortable sleep, but it was good. The EV900 Leviathan sleeping bag by OEX, beautiful, absolutely stunning. It was so warm and so comfortable. Can't believe I've not bought it sooner. So that's one thing that was certainly in my favour, was the fact that I had a nice warm night. And the Lanshan 1 Plus is the 4-season version. Well, it's got the 4-season inner to it. And I think that went a long way to keeping the warmth in as well. Made a real difference, I'm sure. Well, there we are, all packed up. The tent is gone and there's no trace that I was ever here, as it should be. Remember, if you can carry it in, you can carry it out. Leave no trace. Got my bag there ready to go, rubbish bag strapped to the top, and a bag of crisps on the tree stump to eat as I walk away from here. So I'm going to get packed up now. I'm going to set off back to the car, and then I'm going to dump my gear, take a short drive over to the foot of Roughtor, and I'm going to walk up, pay my respects to Charlotte Dymond's memorial, and then I might, depending on the time, carry on up and visit the top of Roughtor. I've never done it before, so it could be interesting. Straps are wet. Oh, I think I put on some weight last night.